I'm excited for this spoiler-free Wheel of Time character and casting video today. Now, as always, I've planned this video series to help you understand who the characters are, along with some relevant world building, but without spoiling any plot points from the books if you haven't read them or finished the series yet. And I'm giving you casting and TV show news to go along with it. You might want to check out my previous videos in this series, but especially the one I did on Aes Sedai, because that is relevant to the character we'll be talking about today. This character is at the height of Aes Sedai power and is therefore arguably the most powerful person in the continent when the series begins. That is Siuan Sanche, the Amyrlin seat, the head of the White Tower. I'll tell you about her character, but also a little bit about White Tower political structure and the 7 Ajas, or groups, that the Aes Sedai are divided into. Then I'll tell you about the actresses who have been cast as Siuan. Yes, I said actresses. So let's dive into Siuan. Just a quick aside on the actresses. The main actress who has been cast as Siuan, Sophie Okonedo, has been officially confirmed by Amazon. There is a second actress, Keira Chansa, who is reported to be cast as young Siuan, and this has not been officially confirmed as of yet. However, that reporting has so far proven to be accurate, and I do think this is extremely likely, so I will talk about Keira. And just look at these two. Could that not be more perfect casting with Keira as a young Sophie? Siuan grew up in the coastal nation of Tyr, in a very poor fishing district. Despite her low upbringing, she seems to have been a born leader and has a no-nonsense directness, an unwavering determination, and a very sharp intellect, especially when it comes to puzzling out patterns that others have difficulty seeing. She doesn't love politics, and as a young woman is much more interested in traveling and seeing the world. Siuan was born with the spark, which means that she would eventually channel the one power, whether she wants to or not. When she comes to the White Tower to train to be an Aes Sedai, she learns very quickly and discovers that her potential strength in the one power is among the highest of all Aes Sedai at the time. She makes good friends, including one in particular, though I will save discussion of that for potential show spoilers. She outperforms even high expectations with her remarkable skills and becomes the youngest Amyrlin seat in history. When she becomes Amyrlin, she maintains her earthy way of speaking, including all the fish-related metaphors you never knew you needed. Siuan initially chooses the Blue Aja when she becomes an Aes Sedai, but upon being raised to the Amyrlin seat, she becomes of all Ajas and of none, as expressed by the 7 striped stole that she wears. So let's talk Ajas. In my previous video on Aes Sedai, I explained that each of the 7 Ajas has a different mission, strength, or focus, and that the sisters choose one upon being raised to Aes Sedai. In that video, I also went into detail about the green, red, and blue Ajas, so I'll just briefly summarize them here. The green Aja is focused on preparing to face the shadow in the last battle. They're sometimes called the Battle Aja, and their leader is called the Captain General. The mission of the Reds is to seek out and protect the world from the dangers of men who can channel, and they call their leader simply the Highest. Blues are committed to fighting for causes of their choosing, and they are led by a first selector. Now let's talk in detail about the remaining 4 Ajas, because I think it's possible that we won't see a casting of a major Aes Sedai from one of those Ajas in the first season. First up, Brown. Brown sisters are committed to gaining and passing on knowledge. They are the researchers, the librarians, the teachers, the scientists, the historians. Browns can choose whatever branch or branches of knowledge they want to focus on. They have a reputation for becoming so absorbed in their own intellectual pursuits that they can become distant from the demands of the world. Unlike most of the Ajas, the Browns are run by a ruling council, the head of which they call the first chair. It's possible that we will see the casting of one Brown sister, Varen Mathwin, in the first season, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see her until the second season. Yellows next. Yellows are focused on healing. They use the One Power to heal physical illness and injury, but they also pursue healing in a less literal sense. To quote the head of the Yellow Aja, known as the First Weaver, being a Yellow isn't about talent, it's about passion. If you love to make things well, to fix that which is broken, there would be a purpose for you here. Not all Aes Sedai possess the talent for healing, and indeed some do not have sufficient strength in the One Power to do it. Yellows also have a reputation for self-assurance and for taking care for their appearance. Like the remaining Ajas on this list, there are some prominent characters from the Yellow Aja, but we don't meet them until later in the series. The White Aja dedicates itself to pursuit of logic, philosophy, and truth. They tend to avoid social causes and more worldly knowledge. They are passionate about the pursuit of the truth, but otherwise are rather cool and ascetic in their behavior. All Aes Sedai are known for serene and calm, but the White Aja especially so. Their skills would be particularly useful when it comes to questions of mathematics, but they're more likely to miss the mark when it comes to human behavior. But their aim is to be able to judge without bias. Their leader is called the First Reasoner. Finally, the Grey. The Grey Aja is most interested in politics, the law, diplomacy, and consensus. They work as political advisors, conflict mediators, diplomats, and ambassadors. They've been involved in crafting treaties and other agreements between different political and military factions. They also can work in administration of the law wherever they happen to be located, and some of them are skilled in investigation of criminal matters. Because of their areas of expertise, they tend to be one of the Ajas that's most likely to travel and mix in the world outside of Tar Valon. Their leader is called the head clerk, and similarly to the Browns, she is advised by a council. Because of the belief of the Greys in consensus, the head clerk would try to seek agreement among the council. I shouldn't necessarily have said finally, because there is a rumor of an unofficial 8th Aja, known as the Black Aja. Supposedly, this is an Aja made up of women who are sworn to the Dark One, but no one openly knows or will say anything about it. Each of the 7 Ajas is represented in the Hall of the Tower, which is kind of like the Congress to the Amyrlin Seat's president and the Keeper of the Chronicles vice president, kind of, if you're familiar with U.S. politics. The Hall makes policies and implements the Amyrlin's decrees. The Amyrlin technically presides over the Hall, but they're not necessarily always of the same mind. There are some areas where the Amyrlin seat needs the Hall's agreement and areas where she does not. There are 3 sitters to represent each Aja in the Hall, and these roles are typically filled by women who have been Aes Sedai for a long time. Each Aja chooses their own sitters to make up the Hall. The Hall chooses the Amyrlin, and then the Amyrlin chooses her Keeper of the Chronicles. The Keeper may have as little or as much power as the Amyrlin seat chooses to give her, and she might be involved in the day-to-day running of Tar Valon, which is the island city where the White Tower is located. Now, back to our Amyrlin.
It almost feels like the British actress Sophie Okonedo should need no introduction. She's been in everything, film, TV, theater, and she's really on the level of experience, star power, and acclaim as Rosamund Pike. She even has the ranking of CBE in the Order of the British Empire. Her IMDb acting credits go back to 1991, but her first big breakout role was in the 2004 movie Hotel Rwanda, for which she was nominated for an Academy Award. It would make this video much too long to try to cover her entire resume, but it does really show a broad range of projects from action movies to comedies, dramas, genre pieces, classics, and her list of nominations and awards is equally long. She won a Tony Award for her Broadway debut in A Raisin in the Sun. She was nominated again for her role in The Crucible, and she won a London Evening Standard Award for Antony and Cleopatra. I've also been really curious about her role as Queen Margaret in The Hollow Crown because she called this her most favorite role. And I've only been able to watch clips so far, but it's really intriguing, and it appears that this character goes on quite a journey over the course of these series. A couple things really strike me from researching her. One is that she's really able to change her voice for different roles that she plays. Another is that she just turned 52 years old, and I think that really surprised some people on social media. You might say she has a sort of ageless look, which is very fitting for the role. And if you look at her over the course of different ages, you really see how timeless she appears, and I think that's going to work really well for Siuan. Last thing I'll say is that I know there are some fans who don't like this casting because there's a difference between how Sophie appears compared to a book description. Yes, Siuan in the books has blue eyes, and you know what? That doesn't matter to her character at all. When we are talking about an actress of this caliber and what she can bring to the show and to this role, you really need to look at where your priorities lie if this casting concerns you. If it does, there are videos that tackle this topic in great detail that I have done and that others have done, and I will link those for you once again. Lastly, 11-year-old Keira Chansa is reported to have been cast as young Siuan, and this is really interesting because we don't see Siuan at such a young age in the books, and this may indicate that we'll be seeing some flashbacks either of her early life or perhaps when she first comes to the White Tower. Let me know in the comments what you think we'll be seeing from Keira in the show.
It's really intriguing to consider what having such a young Siuan will mean for the show. I speculated about that a little bit in a recent video which did contain spoilers. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this introduction to the character and the actresses who will portray her. Check out my other spoiler-free character and casting videos. And as always, subscribe and stay tuned for more Wheel of Time content.